Bay YouTube? It's Charles, and today we're going to talk about a brand new book from Titan Comics. It is Hard Case Crimes, Heat Seeker Exposed, a Gun Honey series, #1. This takes off from the last series, directly after I believe it was called Combustion, where Dahlia Racers rescued a young lady who was being experimented on by her father with some grand scheme to make a massive weapon of mass destruction. And so she rescued her, and what Dahlia Racers does is she helps people to disappear. If they're on the run from criminals, from the law for the right price, that is her job. That is the basic starting point and premise of Heat Seeker. And like I said, it's instead of just starting a whole new, entirely disconnected arc, we start with her and the mercenary foe turned friend is now in a relationship with Dahlia, and they are kind of unofficially adopted the young lady and got her enrolled in school in New York, and they're trying to get her adjusted into her new life. And so that's where we're picking up, and there's pretty much, I don't want to give you all of the different points and stuff of the book. I don't want to ruin it for you. But we start with this reporter making a call. She is like a YouTube vlogger, so to speak. And she has gotten her hands on some classified information with Dahlia Racer's name on it. And so she's put two and two together and is now trying to get the big story on Dahlia Racers. And she is threatening, in essence, to expose her and the people who she's helped if she doesn't get an interview with her. And there's some fun action here of kind of a cat and mouse chase. The action in these books is always drawn very well. It really feels like it's moving on the page. And one thing I will say about this book, if you watch my last review of a Gun Honey series, maybe the last review, I think it was the last review I did of Combustion, I criticized the use of nudity. Not because I'm anti-nudity in comics, that's not the case at all. I just think that if you're going to use something as something like nudity or obscenity, I think, in my personal preference, I'm not saying this is law, this is my personal preference, I want it to drive the story. I don't want to see nudity just for nudity's sake. I don't want to see obscenities just for obscenity's sake. I want them to add to the story, and I thought that one panel in the last book really undercut the emotional scene that they created. It was a scene of that mercenary I mentioned, kind of getting her backstory and trying to be, in her an effort to make her a relatable character. And she was showering, and it was a few panels. It's like we could have had that emotional high point of that series with her clothes on. That's all I'm saying. But here, just as an example, I'm not going to show the page because I don't want to get in trouble. If you want to see the action, you have to buy this book. But there's a scene where they're on the beach. She finally agrees to meet with this reporter, and she has her. She wanted to meet on the beach. Dahlia's in a bikini, and she tells her to strip down to a bikini as well, because she wanted to make sure that she didn't have anything hidden on her person. And what the reporter did was, instead of stripping down to a bikini, she stripped buck naked. And even Dahlia Racers was like, no, you don't have to get naked. I just want to make sure you're not armed. And the reporter insisted. And I was like, okay, that seems like an interesting detail. And then you look at the details, and she has distinct body jewelry. And I was like, that's interesting. that this body jewelry was drawn so prominently. And then we find out later that that particular body jewelry was an audio recorder. And so that is a great example of nudity serving a narrative purpose. The fact that she chose to be naked for a reason other than just drawing nudity in a comic book. And it goes much deeper than that. I was having a conversation in the comments with a viewer, and they thanked me because they thought it was just quote unquote a booby book. And the Gun Honey series is much more than that. Yeah, there are those sleazy elements in the book that, but it's more approached in a campy way, not a dirty way. And there's so much more than that in these books. It's about espionage, deep plots and narratives that, twist and turn and intersect. Very good writing with that spicy touch, I guess you could say. So that's my thoughts on Heat Seeker Exposed. Number one, I suggest you check it out. Not for your kids, not even if you're an adult who doesn't like graphic material, because there is violence and nudity. But it's just a great read and a fun book. I will see you guys next time. Until then, keep reading them books. And you can get your copy at Spellbound Apothecary and Entertainment if you're in Wyoming. Or if you're not in Wyoming, I always suggest my friends over at coffeeandthecomic.com. I'm out.